Everybody, I have some exciting and fun announcements before lunch so we can get us on our way. I'm pleased and so happy to announce that with Chief Carr's request of the blanket dance this morning, I am very proud to announce that we've raised $3,112.70. And that is for the Sandy Lake evacuees. I'm really excited to see these communities return home, and I'm really hopeful that these funds will support them in their journey. Miigwech, Chief Carr, into your community. Next, I have the great pleasure and honor of bringing up Donna DeBossige, and we are going to honor her for her ongoing work. I'd like to bring up Rebecca Timms and the Women's Council to lead that for Donna. You can make your way to the front.
Penny, Minogajep, and warm greetings to each of you. My name is Rebecca Timms, and I now serve as the Director of the Women's Initiative sector within Chiefs of Ontario. Some of you may know me from my time with the Anishinaabe Nation, where I was first blessed to cross paths with Donna. A relationship that has since grown through shared work, empowerment, and meaningful connection. Today, I feel incredibly humbled to stand before you in a moment of love, gratitude, and deep recognition for a truly extraordinary Kwe, our knowledge keeper, Donna DeBossige. As we mark her 10-year journey of service and spiritual leadership within Chiefs of Ontario. Donna is not simply a colleague. She is my mentor, my confidant, my friend, and a profoundly loved presence in my life. She has walked beside me in some of the most formative times of my personal and professional path. The teachings she carries and shares, those rooted in land, in ceremony, in lived truth, and in a fierce and unconditional love for our peoples, have shaped how I lead, the way I listen, and the way I hold space for others. Her gentleness, her humor, and her quiet strength are teachings in themselves. When Donna speaks, she does so by reminding us to never forget the life of our grandmothers. Their knowledge is what should guide us, and that they have continued to walk with us today. She reminds us of who we are as Kwewak, not only with words, but with the way she carries herself. Donna has a way of showing up, not just with knowledge, but with wisdom. Not just with words, but with presence. She embodies what it means to walk in a good way, rooted in spirit, guided by love, and accountable to our communities. She doesn't have to speak loudly to be heard. She speaks with intention, and her words land exactly where they need to. That is her medicine. The love she holds for our nations radiates in everything that she does. She lifts up our Kwewak, our children, our men and boys, and our 2S plus kin with the same unwavering care and commitment. Her spirit work is not just a role she takes on, it is who she is, authentically and wholeheartedly. Donna brings light, and she does so with such ease and humility, as though it's the most natural thing in the world. And while I could speak about Donna's impact endlessly, I also want to honor the reflections shared by our First Nations Women's Council members. So another powerful voice in our circle is Sandra Montour. She is the rep for Six Nations of the Grand River, and she has beautifully offered these words. I'm so very happy to see Donna DeBosque acknowledged and honored. Donna is genuinely deserving of this acknowledgement. I knew from the first conversation that I had with Donna that she was a quiet of great integrity, kindness, and strength. Donna is here for our people, plain and simple. She possesses passion and love for our Kwewak, children, and families. Donna knows the struggle and is determined to make things better for all of our people. Donna is always so willing to share kind, caring, and compassionate words of encouragement to everyone that she meets. I'm sure Donna has no idea how much her kind-hearted spirit is such good medicine for all of us, especially when the world we live in today can be so challenging and at times traumatic. So I will turn it over to Deputy Grand Council Chief Anna Betty if she would like to share some words.
Miigwech, Rebecca. Wachimasa, Anabedi Yachnibanashkam Dijnakaza. Imaganin Bejag Ugumakanish Nishnabayaski Nation. My name is Anabedi Yachnibanashkam, and I serve as a Deputy Grand Chief of Nishnabayaski Nation. First of all, I want to acknowledge all the sacred items and the prayers and ceremony that have been shared with us since we have been gathering here. And thank you to the community for honoring and hosting us. I also want to acknowledge the words that have been shared by many this morning. It's in these gatherings where we have always been honored to have Donna sit with us, and to other gatherings as well. And I've always been very grateful as soon as she would open our and welcome us and ask the ancestors as well to come and help us and guide us. And so it's always been very grounding, and that is so necessary. And it's also very necessary and important that we honor and acknowledge each other, because our life does get hard and we have many challenges. So let's remember to always take that time to recognize and honor each other in our various ways within our ceremony as well. So that is something that Donna has reminded us. For all those years that I have been part of the Women's Council and other movements as well, Donna was there, and we've always been very thankful. So on behalf of the Chiefs of Ontario Women's Council, I am very grateful that I'm here to honor her today and to be part of this ceremony. Jimmy Gwetch Donna, Mauchakugum Gichinandan Genini Ma Dagaben, and for all those wonderful prayers. Jimmy Gwetch. You've already passed it back over.
I have a quick couple announcements before we go to lunch. Miigwech to the drum for the Deadly Honor Song. Beautiful. And to our Deadly Elder and awesome Quay Donna. It's just so awesome to have women acknowledged. As a young woman myself on OFNYPC, it's really awesome to see women in leadership and have these roles, and for other women to step up and honor them. I will ask the drum to bring us back for lunch at 12:55, but I do have a message from Chief Carr. We do have people trying to leave the parking lot and they're blocked in. So I'm asking if you have one of the following vehicles, if you could please just go outside and take a minute to move your car so others can leave. We have a black Wagoneer SUV, CXMW 871. We have a GMC Silver SUV Acadia, CZZS 675. We have a Toyota DBDP 342, a Cherokee CXXR 196, If you need any of those license plate numbers or the car makes or models, please approach me and I can have that information for you. Miigwech and enjoy your lunch.
So we'd like to call on the chiefs back into the room, so I'm going to ask for the drum to call on chiefs back into our assembly. Miigwech. And maybe we'll have one more song. Is about it. One more. Miigwech to the Mishizaging Manuman Drum Group, the host drum for this assembly. So what we'd like to do is, it's 11 minutes after 1. I know that all chiefs are not back in the room, but it's important. We have a number of issues to deal with. It's important to get back on track. So what we've looked at is the next two agenda items are very similar, actually being presented by the same group of people. So we're going to merge the two items. That's the Child and Family Services Ontario Final Agreement session, as well as the Jordan's Principle update and discussion. So we will tie those two together. That will be led by Finn Simard, Director of Social Services. As well, we have legal counsel that will be supporting and presenting as part of those. So we will get started on that. Also to note, initially when we went through the agenda, those were to be in camera. I've been advised that there is no need to go in camera for those. Those are updates, very important updates, and it's okay for everyone else to be aware of those updates, including any government or other officials. No problem with that. Whoa, something just happened here. Sound is okay? Okay, so hopefully you caught that in the back. No need to go in camera for the next two agenda items. We did come out of in camera this morning before lunch.
Oh,
So with that, what we will do is we'll start the discussion on those two items. Also to note, I've been advised there's a number of resolutions dealing with Jordan's Principle. So as part of this time allocation, we will start on those resolutions. Just a reminder, the education agenda item has been deferred to the fall assembly. So we have until 3 p.m. and we can start on resolutions, but unfortunately we will have to move on to the next agenda item at 3 o'clock. So we'll get started. We'll do our best, see how far we can get. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Finn Simard, Director of Social Services, who is somewhere. Oh, there he is.
Hey, hello. Good morning, everybody. I mean, afternoon. It's really nice to see you. And I'm really grateful and honored that you can all be here for our CFS presentation. So because of a lot of the changes, we really wanted to try to make sure we can pack in as much as possible here. And we're just trying to be a bit more responsive to the changes and needs of chiefs at the moment. So I really appreciate your patience and your flexibility while we navigate this time. So our presentation this morning and this afternoon is going to be a presentation and update on the Ontario Final Agreement and our movement and sort of goals forward at the tribunal and some of our next steps at the tribunal to get our Ontario Final Agreement approved. So you'll be able to follow up and ask some questions there. And then we have a second part of our presentation, which is going to be the Jordan's Principle reform. And we'll share a few updates and comments there for you. And then I think, like Adam said, we are going to be looking at some of the resolutions that are already in your package. And then we have a few other Jordan's Principle resolutions that will be going through the regular Thursday resolutions process. So I think that's mostly it. And I think that those are our main pieces. And we have, I believe, Jesse Sterling and Maggie Wente presenting here, and then Nicole Bakes. And then the other caveat I wanted to make is that Chiefs of Ontario Social, we're hosting a child welfare data symposium at the end of September. The registrations should be going out, so we'll be looking at kind of like doing an information share on our work with Chiefs of Ontario Social and the research and data management sector, and sort of sharing some of the key pieces that are needed for that piece. And then we'll have some dialogue at the end for Chiefs. The other thing I wanted to point folks to is that we have a fncfsreform.ca website. So should any of you want to take a look at the final agreement or any of our fact sheets or any of the other presentation materials that are there, you can review them on the website. The other thing I wanted to flag for you is that we also have a 1965 agreement reform resolution possibly hitting the floor Thursday. And we also just uploaded the resources that are attached to that resolution, and you'll have a briefing note that's prepared for you tomorrow as well. So I just wanted to share those pieces with you because I just wanted to update as best I can for what we're doing. And then we have one more social resolution. Sorry, it's the Joint Social Services Table resolution that will be for chiefs to take a look at. The resolution has an attachment for terms of reference that you can review. And that one is specifically looking at more income assistance pieces. So that's pretty much everything, and I'll hand the mic over to Maggie and Jesse, and then we'll get started. So thank you, everybody.
Ani, Bonjour, Sego, Wache, Maggie Wenti Dunjaba, or Maggie Wenti Nidish Cause, Ganapajing Dunjaba. I'm Maggie Wenti. I'm one of the lawyers for Chiefs of Ontario on the child welfare reform file. So today we're going to do three things. We're going to talk about what's happening with the approval of the Ontario Final Agreement for FNCFS reform, for reform of the child welfare program. On reserve, we're going to talk about the 1965 agreement reform and what work's being done there, and then also an update as to Jordan's principle. You'll remember all that you approved the final agreement on long-term reform of the Child and Family Services Program in Ontario in February, and Nan approved it also in February at the Chiefs Assembly. As per the direction and the resolutions that were provided by you, or that were agreed to by you at that time, on March 7th, COO and Anishinaabe Nation jointly filed a motion at the Human Rights Tribunal to approve the Ontario Final Agreement. And Canada supported that motion at the time. Since then, there's been quite a bit happening on the approval of that motion. But I'll note that we don't yet know what position the rest of the parties at the Human Rights Tribunal are taking as of yet. So none of the Assembly of First Nations, the Caring Society, the Canadian Human Rights Commission, or Amnesty International have been required yet to say what their position is. And we don't know what the deadline will be for them to tell us their position. But there are some clues, so I'll tell you about those clues in a little bit. Shortly after we filed the motions, the tribunal had set up a meeting for us to discuss the upcoming dates in the file. And between that and a couple of weeks after that, we received 13 First Nations and organizations, mostly representing agencies, which are those that are not First Nations or treaty organizations, are those representing agencies, seeking interested party status in the motion to approve the final agreement. So what that means is they're seeking to be able to come to the tribunal and tell the Human Rights Tribunal whether or not they think that the Ontario Final Agreement should be approved. I can tell you that all people who sought status in that motion have said that they oppose the Ontario Final Agreement or are looking for orders about things that are happening in their regions and what long-term reform should look like in their regions, mostly to say that the Ontario model shouldn't be imposed in their regions. There are, as you know, 2 First Nations within Ontario who have also asked to be interested parties. We also responded to those and said that we agreed that they have an interest in this question and should be allowed, if the tribunal lets them, to have their say in front of the tribunal. But Chiefs of Ontario did oppose all of the rest of the parties. A number of the other parties also sought generally to be included in all CHRT proceedings from here on forward. So that would include national reform of the Child and Family Services Agreement and also Jordan's principle reform. So for those from outside of Ontario, just so you know, is the Assembly of First Nations of Quebec and Labrador and their group that represents agencies. Nagukuk First Nation, which is a Maliseet-Wolastoqey First Nation from New Brunswick. Eel River Bar First Nation, also New Brunswick. Mi'kmaq Child and Family Services, also of New Brunswick. Our Children Are Away, which is a coalition, I think, of mostly agencies in British Columbia. The Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations, that's Saskatchewan. The Council of Yukon First Nations. The Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs. The Confederacy of Treaty 6 First Nations. The Treaty 8 First Nations of Alberta. And the Treaty 7 First Nations Chief Association, also of Alberta. So we have been quite busy responding to all of those interested party motions. And as I said, for those outside of Ontario, Chiefs of Ontario's position has been that they should not be allowed to intervene in the Ontario motion because it doesn't concern their regions and they don't have an interest in it. You'll be interested to know that some of those people have said that the Chiefs in Ontario, have been coerced into signing that agreement and coerced into agreeing to it. And that is a reason why they are stepping in to protect you. So just that's a little tidbit for your consideration. All right. There's also been a little bump in the road, I suppose, about an issue that arose about whether COO and NAN, not full parties to the litigation, had the power, technically, to bring this motion before the tribunal. That's resolving now because Canada has said that it will step in and bring the motion, even though that's not what everybody wanted. It wanted to be that COO and NAN brought it, but so that technicality should be moving itself out. Okay. So also you should know that with respect to whether or not COO and NAN should have the ability to bring this motion in the tribunal litigation, the Caring Society opposed Chiefs of Ontario's ability to bring this motion. The AFN took no position, but some key points from the Caring Society's submission is that if COO and NAN were able to bring a motion to settle the complaint within Ontario, it would not be in the interests of justice. It would set a dangerous precedent. That the Caring Society and AFN have taken all the significant steps in the proceedings so far, and that's a reason why COO and NAN should not be allowed to do this. And then also positions about what Canada should have to do if it steps into the litigation. So that's where we are right now. And we are in a holding pattern, waiting for the tribunal to tell us who is going to be allowed in as an interested party and what rights they have, to tell us about who will be an interested party in the rest of the litigation. So Jordan's principle and national reform. There's also some questions about what's going to happen with nationally that has to be decided. And then I think after that, they'll be setting a new timetable. So I will say that this has probably delayed us a little bit. We had hoped that we would be getting hopefully to a hearing in the fall. It now may look like late fall, but we're pressing as quick as we can to get there without delay. Another thing just to be conscious of, and I don't want to be too long here because I know you have a packed agenda for the rest of the day, but is to look out in September for some movements by people in other regions to try to encourage AFN to oppose the Ontario motion for approval and to oppose the Ontario agreement. So I've heard rumblings that there may be motions at the AFN from the National Chiefs Commission to try to force the AFN's hand to oppose us at the tribunal. And so you should be thinking about that as we get in. So as we get into the fall, but we'll talk about that in caucus in the fall when it's happening and we have a better idea. So now I'd like to welcome up my colleague, Jesse Sterling, who you will know from some of the prior updates, to talk about what we're doing to prepare for implementation of the final agreement and also to reform 65 and Jordan's principle. Oh, the ORC actually wants to have discussion on this point. So the true Grand Chief, Adam Fiddler, has told me it's okay.
Thanks, Maggie, for that. I think that there's a couple things happening here. It's quite clear, and we've held a couple online updates in relation to the CFSA update of what's going on, and that's in an effort to make sure that you're aware as this moves forward. We've heard lots of messaging from the media, from the AFN, or not the AFN, but mostly the Caring Society, And Maggie said the National Chiefs Commission, it's actually I keep saying that, it's actually the National Children's Chiefs Commission, not the National Chief like the Cindy Woodhouse. It's a commission that was established by resolution at the Assembly. And so it really is annoying and upsetting to me as being your Ontario Regional Chief when I have a mandate to advance an Ontario specific deal, which I believe in, because you've heard me stand here and talk about how, well, this is a program reform. I believe that it brings a lot of resources and it's in the right direction. Gives us over 10 years of the ability to build the community laws that protect the most valuable resource, and that's our children. And so it's about nation building, using their tools, Bill 56, as well as this reform, to build the capacity in community. You've heard me talk this morning, 92, about building capacity in community. This is building capacity in community around protecting your children, how you want to protect your children, how you want to serve your children. Now, I've also said that reform to a national program that's actually very intertwined in provincial. That's because protecting children is part of the Ontario law, right? And the CFSA or whatever the current act is called, which doesn't work for us. And so to think that a national program can be reformed when this program is deeply entwined into provincial legislation is very difficult. We know it's very clear how other provinces operate and how they do their business, including in how they protect their children and serve their families, is different than the way we do it in Ontario. In fact, it's different how we do it in the South and in the North to a certain degree. And so that's what makes our region very diverse. And so that is why we should be able to sign our own reform agreement for our region specifically and not a national agreement. But there are other entities that are using tactics in the courts, in the systems, in the media to make it sound like this is not a good deal for children. It bothers me that other regions think they know how to protect Ontario children, the children that you are charged with, that you have the jurisdiction over, your children, our children. And so now we're in a process in the tribunal working through where there's a number of parties that are trying to say that they know it's better for our children. There's another element in this as well. The AFN has some difficulty around who is directing the AFN's work around child welfare reform. There's a group that was created under the National Chiefs Commission, and then there's the AFN executive. And there's a power struggle happening between them. And they're not operating very well. And so what is happening, it's dragging out more. And what I can tell you in other region is happening is their leadership in their community is saying, I thought we were going towards national reform. I thought we were doing this. And because this process, because they can't figure out how to move forward this national reform, at the same time, the government of Canada has said, the deal that we offered already, the $47.8 billion to the national reform, is the only deal that there is. That's what the government has said. But they've carved out some of that for us. And so now there's a lot of pressure building in other regions for this big national reform to go somewhere, and it's not going anywhere. But we're trying to advance ours. We're trying to get the Ontario Agreement specific agreement approved by the tribunal so that we can get it operationalized in our region to begin reform for our children. And so I just want to be very clear that this is a difficult file for me because one, there's interference from other regions and the work that we do here, and two, that the AFN is not getting in the way, but is not making it any easier. And as Maggie has indicated, there probably was a good chance that in July we would see actually a resolution that would just about directly tell the AFN to stop the Ontario agreement. Unacceptable. So while I don't completely agree that we moved that the July date back, I think that moving to September is probably not a bad thing. But we need to push hard and make sure that we're getting this agreement advancing. And Maggie and her team is doing the best that we can, and I'm pushing back at the AFN to make sure they don't get in the way. The one other thing I'll say in governance, the AFN charter says they cannot block other regions. But remember, the NCCC is trying to gain the complete control on behalf of the AFN to do the child welfare reform. So which virtually could mean that, well, maybe the AFN will not block our work. The NCC on behalf of the AFN may block our work, right? And that's kind of in the works as it's happening. Now, this is only speculation, but there's a lot of writing that's kind of on the wall to show that that's happening. So I'm going to be very clear with you on this, of what's happening. Like, it's a very difficult situation that we're in, but we're doing the best that we can to manage it. And so, as Maggie mentions, when we do come back to the AFN Assembly, if nothing has changed at that point, because now we're talking September, we may be talking about strategy of how we defend our position that we know what's best for our children in this region. So I just want to make sure that you're getting that I'm sharing this information out with you. And I think that the conversation about how the national body supports this, thus far, they haven't gone in a way, but this is something that we probably should talk a little bit more in camera, because we need people to stand out of the way while we do our work in this region, not get in the way. And national advocacy bodies should be supporting regions. And that includes organizations that represent child welfare organizations. You are the rights holder. You know what's best for your children on the ground, not organizations that don't have rights. All right. Good. Yes. Yeah.
Chief Wilfred King, Kiasagi, Nishnabek Gulby First Nation. ORC, you know what? Kind of disappointed that the AFN is kind of taking an approach where they're not getting involved. Well, maybe it's good they're not getting involved, but I think that we have to demonstrate that this is a made in Ontario approach. And I recall many regional initiatives where other regions developed something on their own and they got the support from not only the AFN, but other regions. And I think that instead of waiting for the fall assembly, because I could see the AFN capitulating to the vast majority of those communities that don't have an agreement. This is an Ontario agreement. There's probably over 500 communities that don't have an agreement like we have. And I could see how the caring society is going to again hijack the AFN process again, probably in September or in the fall, and where our agreement could go nowhere because of that. It's been hijacked by an interest group within the AFN. So I think that we should prepare ourselves for that rather than wait until September and say, well, all of a sudden it pops up that it might get defeated. I think we should, prepare for that now and be ready for it. And again, I don't want to talk too much about our participation, but I remember at the meeting in Calgary, there weren't too many First Nations in Ontario that supported this as well. So I think that, we have the support now and we have to defend our position, support our ORC, and also support this agreement moving forward. So I think we better prepare for it rather than wait on the 11th hour.
No, and I appreciate that. And in being the Ontario Regional Chief, I have a seat at the executive level, so which makes me a member of the AFN executive. And so I can tell you right now where we are is that they understand and accept that every region should be able to do their own agreement. And they have even said that even more broadly now, because other regions are saying, why is nothing moving? Why is nothing moving? Maybe we should do our own regional agreement. But there are organizations that are heavily influencing people on their decisions, right? And so as long as the AFN doesn't completely delegate their negotiating authority for child welfare reform to another body, which I argue they can't by their constitution, but there are some real governance gaps in the work that happens at the national level. And we have seen, unfortunately, over the last actually 3 to 4 years, how these governance gaps have resulted in other areas that have not been beneficial to our region. And so, we really need to think of, my position is, my mandate is to serve and all of you. I don't serve any other region. I don't speak for any other region. It's what's in best interest of this region. And so we're going to continue to push back. We'll continue to make sure the AFN holds by what their charter and constitution says there. But I'm just alerting you that, these are some of the conversations we need to really think about because we can't have this happening.
Microphone 3. Thank you. Larry Salt, Mississauga, the credit proxy. Just probably a legal question for Maggie, maybe. In terms of the dynamics that's playing out here, how do we differentiate between political, non-coup, the violation of the charter when they created the Chiefs Commission to oversee this, which was a total violation of the Assembly of First Nation Charter, as I understand it, and nonprofit. So we got a corporation, we got political, and we got a nonprofit. How do we differentiate in the dynamics of all this?
I'm not a lawyer, but I'm going to say something. Many of them, what we have seen is it doesn't matter what it says. They're going to do it anyways. And so what I have been saying is relying on what it says and what you can and can't do. But in my experience in the last year that I've been a member of it doesn't always matter what it says. And so the challenge for us will be is that when they do step out of bounds, and if and when they do step out of bounds, and it gets in the way of us doing something, what are we going to do about it? And that's where we would look to folks like this perhaps to take action, or I'd say we mobilize as member, you would mobilize as members of the AFN. But if everybody's, what we've seen with respect to our agreement, I'm not sure that we're going to get the support we need. So I don't know, if Maggie, you want to talk about that, but.
Orsi, just a final comment.
Yeah, but you can.
Chief King Kiaslagi Nishnabek Gully First Nation. Larry's right. This is the Assembly of First Nation. It's a federally incorporated body under the Canada Corporations Act. It has a charter. It has a constitution and bylaws. Like, why are we letting them get away with this? Like, legally, like they're breaking the bylaw of the corporation. They're violating the charter, and yet we allow it to happen. Like, why do we allow that to happen? Like, we use this as convenience, but I say we should challenge them legally, because I do believe that they have violated the charter as well. They had violated the constitution of the AFN, but yet we allowed them to do that. We didn't stand up our ground and said, if we have to get a judicial review of that. I know the courts have said that, they want organizations to handle these internal things among states. Fundamental. And I think that we should look at what is the legal recourse rather than relying on a bunch of interest groups coming to our AFN meetings as proxies and then dictating the process. And the chiefs don't even have a say anymore in that AFN, what's going on. We got to do something more than that.
Well, I think, and just in response to that, I think that that's why we have to think about what we're going to do, right? I mean, not specifically to this, but overall, and I think that is an in-camera conversation because at the same time, we're very public on this. But what I will say is that when you look strictly at governance, it is a corporation. I'm actually a director of that corporation. And by virtue of being a director of that corporation, your fiduciary is actually to the corporation, which is in conflict of being the Ontario Regional Chief, because my obligation and who I'm elected by is you, not to be loyal to the AFN, but to be loyal to you, and that's where it is. But so when you talk about corporate governance, when you're a director, you're supposed to be loyal to them, and so there's a lot of governance issues. This is actually how we got into into some of the areas with the former national chief, was because the conflict between regions and the national office.
I think the duty of loyalty only extends to the fact that you're abiding by the laws and the constitution of the organization. But if there's a direct violation of that, you also have a duty to ensure that the bylaws are followed, the charter is followed, and so forth. So I don't think you're out of bounds by stepping up and saying, wait a minute, there's something fundamentally wrong here. Miigwech.
Miigwech. Couple of things before we go to Mike 4. We're still responding to Proxy Larry Salt's question. Also a reminder, we are not in camera. We came out of in camera this morning just before lunch. Decision was that we would proceed with an open dialogue. So we are on the live feed and we are not in camera. But going back to Larry's question, Maggie.
I'll just be brief, Proxy Salt. So you're right that there's a distinction between who are the parties to the tribunal and then who are the sort of people around. But at the tribunal, it's COO and NAN, AFN, and the Caring Society, and the Human Rights Commission, and Amnesty International. And then there's the NCCC who are outside of that. And to Chief King's remark, generally, just so everyone knows and is aware, there is currently on the AFN website a proposal to quite radically change the bylaws and charter and stuff of the AFN. And it's not without effect on this file.
Chief Ardon Miracle, Mike 4.
Well, Regional Chief Abram, you take your direction from the chiefs, not the other chiefs in the other regions. that your obligation is part of your oath, you take directions from the chiefs here. What I don't understand is that there was a ceremony signed at the Hilton Hotel at the airport where Minister Patty had you sign this agreement. So is Canada not contractually bound now in law to honor that agreement it signed? And so to me, if that's the case, then I think the minister needs to write to the national team to say the minister has signed this agreement and they're not going to change it. This is how it's going to be. So I don't see how the AFN has the authority to override that agreement. There's a contractual agreement now that exists between the chiefs of Ontario and the federal government. Or is the AFN now going to start interfering with Canada's contractual obligations?
No, well, the AFN, to be clear, hasn't been interfering at all. They've been trying to stay out of our way. But you're right, Canada's contractually obligated to uphold the agreement, and part of that is going to the tribunal and seeking the approval of the tribunal. And they have been supporting us in that, and they're now going to be the moving party. And AFN's been staying out of the way. It's just that there's a threat that others are trying to force them to get in the way.
So then I guess what trumps does Canada's right to enter into that contract trump the AFN politics, or does the AFN trump the federal government?
Well, we all have to go to the tribunal, but Canada will say what they will say at the tribunal, but Canada doesn't have the ability to control the AFN or the NCCC.
Yeah. But I don't think that the AFN has the authority to tell the government it can't make a contract with the Chiefs of Ontario to do this either.
Yeah, correct. I agree.
Miigwech, Chief Miracle. Before I go to mic number one, just an important announcement about a vehicle. Sorry, this was announced earlier, but it's urgent. They need this parking spot. They have to move something. If you have a Toyota Camry, it's silver, DBDP 342. Toyota Camry. It's a silver car. If you can go, please move it. If you rented a vehicle, just double check that that's yours. It's a silver vehicle. And they need it moved ASAP. Chief Batiste, mic one.
Chief Sonny Batiste from Batasman First Nation. Yeah, I guess my question is towards the AFN and the Caring Society, like, they had their chances out in Calgary when we were out there. And our regional chief and NAN chief were give a directive. So I don't know what process that legally that we can do, but there should be something that can be put in place to let them know that we don't want to be interfered. I mean, they had their chance, and we're looking after our own in Ontario and then. It's basically that simple. So, there has to be some process that can be done. Thank you.
Yeah. Chief, for that, we're doing what we can. And the information I'm giving you is just so you know what really is actually happening. Not, there's a lot of things, moving parts on this. Our legal team, NAN's legal team, have been working hard to make sure we move this along. I just want you to be aware of the threats that exist out there and the challenges that exist. And so we're managing to the best of our ability. And I can say that we will use whatever means necessary to advance the position that you have given us. That's one, that others not interfere, and two, that this agreement that we have for regional reform is what you want. We're going to push forward on that.
Miigwech, Chiefs. Any more discussion? Very strong direction to the Ontario Regional Chief regarding this matter. Also, positions to be taken regarding the Assembly of First Nations, AFN, in that forum. Microphone 2, Chief Desmoulins.
Good afternoon, Chief Judy Desmoulins, Longley 58. I just want to can someone just reaffirm that whatever we have going now is going to continue, like the reimbursement process? Will that continue until this is finalized, or do we have that deadline of March 26th?
Everything will continue until the decision about whether or not the OFA is approved or not. If it's not approved by the tribunal, those orders about reimbursement will still exist as well. So you can rest safe. Yeah. Yeah, Jesse comes for the next part. The ORC was like, break Jesse. He knows I'm now beyond my limits.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Jessie Sterling Voss. I'm a lawyer at OKT with Maggie, and I've been supporting COO and their work on this file for the last few years. What Maggie said about the funding continuing, status quo continuing until the tribunals made a final decision on the agreement is totally correct. So she's being too modest there. So I'm going to speak to you first about work that's ongoing to prepare to implement the OFA. So even though the agreement is still making its way through the tribunal approval process, as Maggie described, COO, NAN, and ISK are working really hard already to be ready and prepared to implement this agreement the second that it's approved by the tribunal. So that work is happening. Some information is on the slide. I won't go through it just for the sake of time. But the work we're engaged in now is sorting out all of those finer details about what the OFA looks like once implemented. But I want everybody to be assured that the work we're doing now is completely in alignment with the OFA, which this group has been briefed on and this group ratified back in February. So there's a lot of work happening on the technical side to be prepared for the starting line of implementation as soon as we have the go-ahead from the tribunal. Oh, going backwards now. How does this work? Yeah, do you know? Oh, we're on the right slide for now. Okay. So the BCR process, it worked out somehow by magic. So you may remember in the past, ISK has had a process that allowed First Nations to submit a BCR if they wanted to direct their prevention funding to be allocated in a different way. So when I mean allocated, I mean the way that your prevention funding is split between your First Nation and your affiliated FNCFS agency. So there'll be more communication coming from COO around this and all of the details. But I want to let you know now, this is a good opportunity to get the word out, that the process is available again for the fiscal year 2026-27 funding. And the deadline to submit a BCR, if that's of interest to your community, is September 30th, 2025. So we're coming up on that. You can expect a communication from COO with more details. And if you have any questions, please do be in touch with Finn Samar, the Director of Social at COO. So we can go to the next slide. And one more. So now we're on 1965 agreement reform. We've just included one short slide on this. I won't go through all the text. The copy of this deck will be available on the Chiefs meeting website for this assembly. So don't feel you need to take a bunch of notes down now. But a little bit of background is at the same time that the Assembly ratified the OFA, the Assembly also ratified the trilateral agreement. And that agreement spells out how COO, NAN, and Canada are going to work together to reform the 1965 agreement with the Government of Ontario. You'll remember that the 1965 agreement is a cost-sharing agreement entered into between Canada and Ontario, and that the tribunal ordered Canada to reform this agreement way back in 2016 when they made their landmark ruling in the merits case. So there's some work ongoing, as you see on the slide. Right now, parties COO, NAN, and ISK are involved in developing a work plan. So that's sort of our action plan on how we're going to approach Ontario to get them to the table. And as Finn said, there may be a resolution on this coming a little bit later. But our work right now is to get all of our details sorted out so we can approach Ontario and try and get them to get that mandate we need to finally be able to move forward 1965 agreement reform. And the COO negotiating team is guided by an advisory committee, and we are accountable to the ORC, to Leadership Council, and to the Chiefs Committee on Social, and ultimately, of course, to the Chiefs and Assembly. So no big decisions on 1965 reform will be made before returning to this Assembly and getting that mandate. This is just an update on what's been going on, as there's been some developments of late, and we wanted to keep everyone updated. So we can go to the next slide. And we're getting now into Jordan's principle. So if the next slide spells out some issues. So there are a number of issues with how Canada is administering Jordan's principle. The leaders and technicians in this room already know this, and you're really the most expert in what is going on the ground in Jordan's principle and the disaster that it's really become. So we don't have the time right now to go through all of the issues in Jordan's principle or even go through a few issues in great detail. So what I'm going to do is just speak to 3 sort of ongoing current issues in Jordan's principle very briefly. And I'll just note now that items 2 and 3 on the screen, those have resolutions, I believe, related to them that'll be discussed as soon as I wrap up. So we can go to the first item. So mediation on interim operational solutions. So the long and short of this is back in December 2023, the Caring Society brought a case to the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal, really centered on 2 things, the backlog of requests and the reimbursement and payment delays experienced especially by First Nations and First Nations communities. So back in January 2025, the tribunal issued a decision and forced Canada to consult with the parties on solutions to these problems. So that has been happening in the form of a mediation, which has been ongoing since January. And you'll see the 9 issues listed on the screen. Those are the issues being discussed at that mediation. So COO social, education, and health sectors, with assistance from OKT, legal support, are working to come up with these solutions, working hard with the parties and trying to drive the work forward as quickly as possible to get some solutions on the ground ASAP. And we're guided by COO Leadership Council Social Portfolio holder Grand Chief Joel Abram, and reporting to COO Leadership Council. So that's the mediation. We can go to the next slide, which is on the operational bulletin. I'm sure many of you are familiar with. This is something that ISC introduced back in February. And the bulletin introduced really big changes to how Jordan's principal requests are handled. And all of these changes came into effect immediately. So there was no time given to prepare. There are lots and lots of issues with the bulletin, some of which I've listed on your screen there. There are new criteria that were introduced for group and individual requests. And all of those new criteria are being applied retroactively to requests in the backlog. So it raises a lot of fairness questions there. Also a quite more burdensome process for group requests. And quite importantly, the last bullet on your screen is that supports for children attending off-reserve schools are no longer eligible for Jordan's principal funding. There is a resolution, I believe, about this that'll be discussed next. I just wanted to give you all a primer on the operational bulletin and the sorts of issues that the resolution is looking to address, a game plan to make some progress. And we'll go to the next slide, please. And this is the last one. In the landmark 2016 merits decision that I mentioned, the tribunal also ordered Canada to reform its approach to implementing Jordan's principle. There was some work undertaken by the parties to the CHRT case, which Maggie listed a couple of times, but this work really stalled in March 2023. So Jordan's principle long-term reform, here we're not talking about interim operational solutions, we're talking about a total reimagining of Jordan's principle and coming up with workable long-term solutions to allow this principle to be what it was always intended to be and not be just Canada's interpretation of it. But that work, as I said, has been stalled for some time. There's currently no timeline for these discussions to resume at the national level. And it's anticipated that if they do resume, it's going to be very complex and could be quite a significant amount of time before any sort of national solution could be arrived at. So COO has expressed that First Nations in Ontario cannot wait any longer for the long-term reform we need to Jordan's principle. And there's a desire to explore a regional agreement on reforming Jordan's principle in Ontario. So that, I believe, is one of the resolutions for your consideration once I wrap up. So when I say regional approach to Jordan's principle reform, you can think of it a bit like the OFA, where the OFA was an Ontario-only approach to solving FNCFS program reform. There's a suggestion to try and apply that same approach to Jordan's principle reform to try and get better, quicker results. And that is the end. So I'll turn it over now to Adam. Thank you all.
Miigwech, thank you, Jesse Sterling, for the presentation. And just a reminder, what we've done is we've brought the 2 presentations together So the Child and Family Services, the Ontario Final Agreement session, and the Jordan's Principle presentation, we brought them together. So that's the presentations. So we're going to open it up for questions.
Chief Wilfred King, Kiasagi, Schnabek, Gulby First Nation. I was never ever in support of the 1965 welfare agreement. It was drafted without our consent, our involvement, and so forth. I understand that there is a reform in terms of this agreement. And one of the things that Gulby has always been fighting is the fact that the Social Benefits Tribunal has often disregarded the direction of Chief and Council of the Gulby and has basically overridden our decisions. And we want to extricate ourselves from this tribunal, but the only way we can do that is that we have to get out of this 1965 welfare agreement or the provision that dealing with social services. Now, I know that there are two communities, Big Trout Lake and Nokwasasni are the only two communities in Ontario that are not bound by this agreement. And we want to be out of this agreement as well. We want to control our own social services because essentially what they're doing is that they're mandating basically the chief and council to commit fraud in our community. And if you don't sign those agreements, your funding gets cut off. So I think that I'd like to know if there's room within this process that allows communities to say, we don't want to be part of the 1965 welfare agreement. We want to develop our own process, whether it be a new process or whatever. But I think it's time that we have to get rid of this provincial incursion and jurisdiction over our community. So I don't know if that answer is available. So, and again, when we talked about, why are there only two communities in Ontario are not part of this and why isn't that open to anybody else? Miigwech.
Miigwech, Chief King. So I'll ask Jesse Sterling for any response.
Thank you, Chief King, for your question. I appreciate you sharing your insights. Couple of things to note is the Ontario way of doing things when it comes to social assistance. That applies to all First Nations in Ontario, whether or not they are considered a party to the 1965 agreement. So the 1965 agreement is just, it's a cost sharing agreement. I think that Ontario and Canada have conflated to be more than it is. But I take your point about the two communities in Ontario who are not under it right now, and that's absolutely right. They have expressed to both governments a long time ago that they wanted nothing to do with the 1965 agreement. So that seemed to be respected. And so that avenue remains available under the current 65 agreement. Of course, that's a nation-to-nation discussion to have. There's no mechanism. With the reformed agreement, which we hope to be working on soon if Ontario comes to the table, one of the key things in COO's proposal for reform that we've articulated many times to both governments is the need for a clear and strong opt-out clause. So that is something that we're looking for in a reformed agreement. I hope that helps, Chief King.
Sorry, we changed the microphone, so I don't know if is there a button on the mic over here? If we can have mic 1 turned on again? No, not yet. Is it just double check that there's an on-off button? Microphone 1.
Maybe you could convey it. Oh, here we go.
There we go.
Misnomer here. Like when you talk about cost shared, the province gets the money from the feds in any event, and then they say, well, we provided this amount of money to this agreement. In fact, I think it's 92 or 93% is federal money in any event. So it's not provincial money. They make it sound as if it's provincial money, but it's all federal money. Absolutely. Most of it's federal money. So let's get rid of the province out of this and get the money going directly from the feds right directly to the First Nation. Miigwech.
Yeah, thank you, Chief King. It's something that's being discussed for sure. For sure, especially with Ontario for so long refusing to come to any table. So in the trilateral agreement, there's actually a clause about what happens if Ontario continues to refuse to come to any table. What do we do? And what you described is a plan B that we've provided for. So thank you, Chief King.
Miigwech, Proxy Rosemary McKay, microphone 2.
Rosemary McKay, proxy for Bearskin Lake. Okay, sometimes I ask a stupid question, maybe. There's some things like myself I'm not clear on. I know a lot of our history and these acts and legislations that have been imposed on us for years. But anyway, and this certain chief sent me a picture because I don't, I don't mind talking, even if I sound stupid. But anyway, the question is that we were pondering about this 1965 welfare agreement, and I know like James Cutfeet, Kitchener-Mexico is proxy here for Donnie Morris, and they're not part of the 1965 welfare agreement. The question is for those of us that were part of the Big Trout Lake then, way back before these communities became separated and went on as their own reservations. So we're just trying to figure out, okay, this happened in 1965. And if I'm correct, for example, my reservation, Bearskin Lake became, was 1973. So how did, I know, like, we're not part of this agreement as Anishinaabe or First Nations, and I know this discussion is happening right now. So how did we become part of this again? Is just this like another bell by what's being thrown at us? That's my question. Thank you.
Which proxy Rosemary McKay, first thing I'll say is there's no such thing as a stupid question. Thank you for asking. I know James Cutfeet is here. So James Cutfeet, maybe you can shed some light on that, but Jesse can also respond. But I think the question is, I think it's at least 6 First Nations that were part of the Big Trout Lake Band and separated, became your own band after 65. How did you end up getting on? And KI is now out of the 65 arrangement. James.
Thank you. James Cutfeet, proxy for Kitchener-Mexico KI. The government is always, screwing with us. And I think it's time that we, push it back. Back in the day when, the government was, trying to work with First Nations, in a more collective fashion, they created, parent bands. KI was a parent band for the surrounding First Nations in Northwestern Ontario, which Bearskin was part of, as well as Muskrat Dam. Before it became Muskrat Dam, it was part of Winneman and Big Trout, and Kingfisher, Casablanca, and Sachigo. Those were bands that belonged to KI under that parental band system. So there was a chief that was elected, and KI was the one that normally held the chief position, and the head councillors came together as the broader council of the area up until the mid 70s. That's when the breakaway started happening to create separate reserves. And Rosemary is correct. Somebody should have raised the question. If KI did not agree to the 65 agreement, why are these bands now under the auspices of the 65 agreement for social assistance? So it's a historical question. And like I said, the government, if it's convenient to them, they'll do it. So here's what I was going to suggest. If the government is putting in 93 cents to $1 on for social assistance, the bulk of that money is coming from Canada. And Canada technically is responsible for us, according to the Indian Act. So why not just tell Canada, when you're in the reform discussion, tell Canada, since the two of you governments, Canada and Ontario, have a financial transfer agreement, why don't you just get Ontario to transfer its 7 cents on a dollar? Why bang your heads trying to get Ontario come on side? Thank you.
Miigwech, I want to stay on this topic before we move to microphone 3. Is it a separate topic? Somewhat?
Chief Tababarang here with Oxing. Hoping to talk about the FN final agreement as well as the 1965 welfare agreement. So it's
Okay.
similar.
So we'll come back to you. ORC?
Just a couple of things on a 1965. I mean, you have to put it in a bit more context. It is it's a cost sharing agreement for delivery of services. And because virtually the agreement is still in effect, which means Canada is paying Ontario for certain services. Many of the communities already have the control of these services or have some way already, which is the child welfare homemakers program, which is a very old program. It has evolved from it originally started as. The income assistance was the welfare program. Many communities have some way that they're doing it on their own or agents that are part of it, and the child care program as well. So, but the challenge is, as part of the reform, which is only one element that we have on the agreement, is the child welfare agreement, right? Our intention is to get the agreement agreed to by the tribunal, and so then we can go to Ontario and say, look, we have this 1965 welfare agreement. It really is just a transfer. If you're delivering any programming in our communities, we really should be delivering it ourselves or yourself. Why don't we get you to either transfer the money directly to us or tell Canada that, we no longer want to deliver these programs, so First Nations deliver themselves, and we go back to Canada and negotiate those other parts, right? And so, I think for most of these things, Akwesasne, when I was the Grand Chief there, which I can't speak on their behalf, but I can tell you when I was the Grand Chief there, I mean, it was kind of so long ago, we actually couldn't figure out why we weren't part of it. But because Akwesasne is in 2 provinces, which means that the program delivery for child welfare, the homemakers, income assistant childcare is different in Ontario and Quebec. And so there's no sense in having there's no 65 welfare agreement in Quebec. So therefore the feds put it directly to Akwesasne, which is the way they prefer it, is that they deliver the programming themselves, right? And so we want to get the reform agreement signed so we can go to Ontario and say, look, the 65 welfare agreement, why don't we get rid of it? We want it directly to us. Either you work with us to do that or you tell the feds you don't want to do it anymore. I think we're really getting down into the nitty-gritty on this. It's a financial transfer agreement. It should be going directly to your communities to deliver it, not through the province.
Rich, back to you, Chief. Microphone 3.
Good afternoon, Chiefs. Assembly, Chief Tababarang, Wasaksing First Nation, Wabanang, Ugema, Wasaksing, Punjaba. I just trying to wrap my head around this because I was attempting to speak to this in February when Wasaksing voted against the final agreement. And the principles we voted against it was based on the long-term reform is very time limited. I believe it's 10 years or is it 7? And so when they call it a long-term agreement, it's a short long-term agreement in actuality. And the other issue is about jurisdiction of our children off reserve. So again, this is tied to the cost sharing agreement. And what this agreement basically said is we're not going to get funded for sending our band reps off reserve. So that was those were the principles we voted against it for, but we also respect the needs of the province and the chiefs in the province, that not everybody had an opportunity to build their programs since the tribunal decision. It was at actual. So Wasaksing and a handful of First Nations actually went into debt quite made an intentional effort to go into debt to claim every September for the ad actual. So effectively what we did was we built our program up over the last 6 or 7 or maybe 4 or 5 years. Now we see that they were offering a very lucrative agreement. So not every nation was able to build up at actual. But the note is that they're still at actual now. So continue to go in debt with your program. You can claim it in September if you have through your lawyers or through your technicians. But yeah, I just wanted to note that because what's going to happen if the 1965 reform stalls beyond the term of the final agreement, and if there's any thoughts around that or any strategy that we're going to look at, because I believe that's going to be a challenge for us. And Wissahickon continues, as much as most of the chiefs I hear and learn from, to assert our children rights in our jurisdiction, regardless of where they are actually on the globe, because sometimes our band reps have to go overseas to protect our children, and we still assert our rights. And this is again a kind of a challenge on that, a compromise, I guess, that was made, and something that we need to know. Miigwech.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Chief. And just a couple of things, right? I mean, I think the process we're using is that we get the Ontario final agreement signed. So then we can go to Ontario and say, look, we want to renegotiate the 1965. I think that there's a pretty compelling case to be made too as well, as to why Ontario should acknowledge that you have the jurisdiction authority over your children, regardless of where they are. The problem is that, remember, it comes to dollars and cents. The federal government is only giving monies for children on reserve. Now, I acknowledge that's a problem, and I don't agree with that. But that's where we're at right now. But I think that once we get the Ontario agreement signed, we'll go to Ontario, and that'll be part of our argument. Look, and we also need communities to build their community laws around their jurisdiction and authority. Look, communities have their community laws. Communities have actually been doing this, protecting and supporting their families, regardless of where they live or on reserve. We need the province to acknowledge that that jurisdiction exists for those children in non-Indigenous agencies, but also just off reserve generally. Because I can tell you that the province has a big problem with the child welfare system as it exists now. And so making that argument to them, like acknowledge that we already have control and jurisdiction over our children, transfer the resources for off-reserve children to our agencies or to our communities so that we can do that job, because the non-Indigenous agencies are doing a terrible job at it.
Miigwech, back to microphone number 3.
Hi, thank you. Zigwen Ndishkas Wustodem Anam Kewajing Donji. I feel okay. Miigwech. I did express at the last assembly that I have concerns about how the Grand Council of Treaty 3 communities are represented in the way that the negotiation team is set up. I still have that concern, and I will probably abstain from those resolutions. I feel that there's a fear of, at least from my perspective, I can't, of course, I'm not here. I have to confer with my colleagues in Treaty 3, but any remedy through the 1965 welfare agreement may not work for Grand Council Treaty 3 communities. So I'm just saying again, I would like to see more involvement as part of the negotiation team. I'm going to think about that. I'm going to talk to my colleagues about that, and I'll discuss that with you guys again. Miigwech.
Miigwech, thank renting either a black or a silver Toyota, double check. Unfortunately, they will be towed very shortly. So they're parked in it's a safety reason. So they're parked in a dangerous location. So we are going to get to the resolutions. We'll go as far as we can until 3 o'clock, and then we'll get on to the next agenda item. So resolutions team, I know this is a little bit of a change in the order, but I'm going to ask for resolution 2504A to be put up on the screen, and I have to find it in my package as well. So it's 2504A. It's titled Exploring a Regional Approach the resolutions a little bit. So this is draft resolution 2504A. As soon as they get it up on the screen, I'll read the operative clause. I won't bother reading the therefore be it result. If I can have technical staff here in the back, make sure that resolution team has access to the screen so that they can share their screen and have it up on the screen. A couple of other announcements while we're waiting. Just a reminder, Chiefs, there's two annual general assemblies coming up on June 26th in Toronto. It's important that you register. This is for OFNLP, their annual general assembly, as well as the Sovereign Wealth AGA. That's happening in Toronto, June 26th. So you need to register. I'm told that at this point, they may not have enough registered delegates. So for your First Nation, please make sure you're registered. I know a lot of investment with Ontario First Nations. I know there's a lot of opportunities for First Nations investment in those organizations. So again, OFNLP and the Sovereign Wealth, June 26th in Toronto. So please sign up. Again, looking for the resolution to be put up on the screen.
Wi-Fi keeps going in and out. Okay. Okay. The Wi-Fi keeps going out, so we can't. It's just. Okay.
Okay. Problem. While we're going through this, we get people start coming out.
Our legal guy is right.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so here's the issue. Apparently, we have some Wi-Fi challenges. The resolutions team is in the building. They're in a different room. They're trying to connect. So you see the resolution right now, but we're having some issues. So we may lose the signal. And if that happens, we'll just take a short break and we'll try and establish the resolutions team here in the room. Okay, we've got some of the team here. So we're going to go ahead. This is resolution 2504A. We've confirmed the mover and the seconder are here. So if I can have you scroll down to therefore be it resolved on page 3. You have a copy as well. And so I will start reading the resolution. It reads, therefore be it resolved that we, the Chiefs in Assembly, 1, direct COO to explore pursuing a regional agreement between COO, NAN, and Canada on the long-term reform of Jordan's Principle in Ontario. Number 2, call upon Canada to seek a mandate to negotiate a regional agreement with COO and NAN on the long-term reform of Jordan's Principle in Ontario. Number 3, direct COO that should Canada receive a mandate to negotiate a regional agreement with COO and NAN, COO Leadership Council will determine the structure of the COO negotiating team and terms of reference for a committee to advise the COO negotiating team. Number 4, call upon all other parties to the CHRT litigation, the AFN, the Caring Society, Amnesty International, and the Canadian Human Rights Commission, and all First Nations organizations and other entities to support and to not interfere in COO's efforts to reach a regional agreement between COO, NAN, and Canada on the long-term reform of Jordan's Principle in Ontario. Number 5, direct COO that the Ontario Chiefs in Assembly will vote on the ratification of any proposed regional agreement at a Chiefs Assembly on a date to be determined after COO has provided the opportunity for chiefs and technicians to be briefed on any proposed regional agreement. So that is the resolution before you. Mover and seconder are here, not required, but if you wish to speak to the resolution, you can approach one of the microphones and then we will open it up. A reminder, we're trying to get through 4 resolutions. We may run out of time. If you want to pass all of them, my advice is the quicker the better, and then we can make the decision. Mike, number 4.
Ani Mayangan Mentu Nidishkas Nimedore Mizoi Donjaba Machisagi Conditioner Brent. Brent Niganab. Yeah, I'm here for this because we need it now sooner rather than later. If we wait around, we've had success with the regional, with the long-term reform. We've led the way. I was in Treaty 8, and all they could talk about was how we got it done, and they wish they were in our shoes. So right now we can continue with that, leading the way. I think we all know in this room where Jordan Principle is and how much there's a need for it now. We can't leave families waiting or going through the FNIBH. We need more adequate, specific, and benefits. So I think, I think, like I said, we've been successful in negotiating already. I say continue doing that and continue going down this road. We're not going to wait around for the AFN. You know how they are right now and the issues that they're having. If we wait on that, this may not get done in time. So Ontario specific, and let's get it done.
Miguch, seconder at microphone number 4.
Ani Kanagoya, Shkodagat Disgan, Magan Dodem, Gema Wikwemkong. Yeah, just with my with the other Gema Brent here is some of the importance why we got to move forward at a regional approach. I know we looked at similar to the FNCFSS approach, what we did a few months ago back in Thunder Bay. So looking at that type of delivery of service and understanding the impacts this is currently happening with all of our First Nation communities here in Ontario, we have to, as my Gima colleague here also stated, is the importance. We can't wait any much longer, and getting some direction or collaborative work with other regions of that regional approach. I think with Ontario, we know what our specific needs are here, and there's a number of resolutions coming forward after this one, which I'll also be speaking on. But this is why we have to really look at a more regional approach for all of our First Nation communities here in Ontario.
Miguch. So we've heard from the mover and the seconder. I'll allow opportunity, number of calls, if there is anyone that wishes to speak to the resolution. In the room, microphone number 2. Go ahead, Chief Loon.
Chief Merle, Luna, Michigan First Nation. I'd like to recognize Deputy Grand Chief Bob when I cease to speak. Thank you, Chief Loon. Oops. Yeah, I just as chair of the Chiefs Committee on Children, Youth, and Families with Anishinaabe Nation, we do have a friendly amendment to the resolution. As you know, NAN also has intervener status at the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal with an emphasis on remoteness. As you know, many of our communities still have a lot of issues with access and also the special needs and all these different areas that also follow under Jordan's principle. But more specifically, within the Anishinaabe Nation territory, we do have an initiative called Choose Life. And Choose Life is a very integral program specific to Anishinaabe Nation, which is also funded by Jordan's principle. And we want to also ensure, like, although we agree with this resolution, we want to add a friendly amendment, which basically states, I have the wording right here from our Chiefs Committee. Further be resolved that we, the Chiefs in Assembly, will support and ensure that the above stated efforts to reach a regional agreement between COO, NAN, and Canada on the long-term reform of Jordan's Principle in Ontario do not interfere with Anishinaabe Nation specific processes, projects, or efforts already underway that will be carried out in respect to Jordan's Principle and the Choose Life table. So I was wondering if the mover and seconder would be open to those amendments.
Deputy, what I'm going to do is, can you go over to the resolutions team? They're just over on the side here, and give them the text of that so they can type it in.
They didn't get that when I first.
You kind of sang it out.
I did sing it out. I have to sing it out. Okay, yeah, I'll be over there.
So the team is over here. If you can, did you get everything? You got it? Okay, they do have it. I just want to confirm because we're dealing with a proposed amendment. Chief Loon, you're the one proposing the amendment, right? For the record, okay. So what we'll do is we'll have it put up on the screen, and then I will ask the mover and the seconder if they concur once it's up there. But in the meantime, Chief, go ahead.
Yeah, no, we're okay with it.
You're both okay?
Yeah, we're okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I almost heard Elvis there. So I'm just going to wait for confirmation. What we'll do is we'll have it up on the screen and have it highlighted maybe in yellow, and then I'll read it in for the record once it's there. We do have agreement from the mover and seconder. If it's going to take a while, I'll go back to microphone 2, but just give me 1 second. I think we're almost done. So what I'm going to do is I'll start reading it. I know they're still typing. We'll have it up in yellow, but the proposed amendment is number 6. Will support and ensure that the above stated efforts to reach a regional agreement between COO, NAN, and Canada on the long-term reform of Jordan's Principle in Ontario do not interfere with any NAN-specific processes, projects, or efforts already underway or that will be carried out in respect of Jordan's Principle and or the Choose Life table. So that's all been agreed to by the mover and seconder. So thank you. Microphone 2.
Good afternoon again, Chief Judy Desmond, Long Lake 58 First Nation. It's my comments, I guess, is something similar to what Bobby Narcisse here was just presented. I would like to try and stress a specific time period. And the reason for that is, you know, the Choose Life programs that some of us have, communities are having to lay off these people. And these are direct services to our children and youth. You know, this has been the best, and in my opinion, it's been the best funded program for children and youth in our programs. And this very process here, all those services are, for some communities, are gone. And for some of us, other communities, we're trying to hold on and keep the funding going with whatever funds we have available. But again, you know, the threat of these services, detrimental services are being cut from our kids right now. So I would like to see a stronger timeline put in place. Miigwech.
Miigwech. Thank you, Chief Desmoulin. So I'm looking at the resolutions team. Direction is there's a sense of urgency. And so I'm not sure where in the resolution, if there's any specific place, but I look to the resolutions team just to highlight the urgency. I'll just wait on the resolutions team while they do that. And then we'll have it up on the screen. So under number paragraph 5, it would the addition of will vote on the ratification of any proposed regional agreement at a Chiefs Assembly. The addition is on a date to be determined after COO has provided the opportunity for chiefs and technicians. And then it continues on. Is that Chief Desmoulin? Does that do it? It's highlighted in yellow. Maybe, not quite. Okay, they're just working on something. I think the feeling is nawat chibabaji nanok. Just to highlight the urgency that it has to be done sooner than later. There's a sense of urgency. There we go. So it's regional agreement at a Chiefs Assembly as soon as possible. Chief Desmoulin? Yeah, it's still the same. Do you have any suggested wording? I'm looking immediately.
I need to get my, what about maybe by fall assembly? That gives us a few months to start getting that work.
Again, that's a few months too late. You know, people have, like I said, people are being laid off. Direct services to our kids in our communities. Like, we need something now. Like, how do we express that urgency here? Like, some communities have laid off people, you know, last month, this week. I've given the deadline of June 30th. We're going to lose 12 people in our community that are servicing our kids directly. Like, we need something now, some commitment that this is going to keep going.
Thank you, Chief Judy, for that. And so a couple of things, right? The resolution we're talking about now is establishing our own specific process for the Jordan's principle, which I think that is achievable. But I will say a couple of things. The pressures and impacts you're feeling now that there's no money or less money or the layoffs that are happening is because of actually the bulletin, which is the next resolution we're going to be talking about. And so I think that, you know, I wholeheartedly support this resolution and its approach. We do need a Jordan's principle approach for our region. There's a couple factors that I'll say that they're intertwined in this, is that as long as the reform is not settled, Canada's not going to be talking about an Ontario-specific Jordan's principle approach. That's just the reality. And as long as we continue to get opposition from other regions on an Ontario-specific for child welfare reform, they will never support a Jordan's principle reform. Doesn't mean it's not possible. Let me make that clear. So I think the challenge with the bulletin is that the bulletin came out at a very bad time. The government made a decision, then a snap election happened, and there's been no minister there for us to politically lobby to say we need this bulletin to be reversed. And so the next resolution will talk about some of the immediate stuff. And so when there was election, there's nobody there to make the decisions. The government doesn't have a budget, which is another constraint politically. So you're not going to have one until fall. But some of the policy parameters that have happened, we're going to push politically hard on them to get that change back so that the layoffs don't have to happen. And so those immediates can take place. So, but there's a lot truncated in this right now, but very much hear you clear. It's one of the issues that I hear very loud and clear from our communities. The bulletin is a result of why these layoffs have happened, and these have huge implications to our communities on the ground. So, yeah. Well.
Miigwech, thank you very much, Regional Chief. So with that, the text that has been added is immediately, and I think the mover and seconder were okay with that. Any more discussion? A reminder, we've got 23 minutes. Questions being called. Thank you. Resolution is before you. All in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? I see none. If you can monitor online. Any abstentions? One abstention, two abstentions. Would you like your abstention noted for the record? If you do, can I get you to approach the mic just for the record? Anyone that wants their abstention noted for the record, if you can approach the microphone.
Yes, I would like it noted. Chief Linda McVicker and MK Wishing.
Miigwech, Chief McVicker. I think I did see one other abstention, but if you want to note it, okay, go ahead.
Chief White Crow, St. River First Nations.
Miigwech, Chief White Crow. With that, resolution is carried. Thank you. So we will go to the next Jordan's Principle resolution, which is resolution number 2509A. So if I can have 2509A up on the screen, please. Again, we will go as far as we can. We have three more. We will go as far as we can until 3 o'clock. We're following the agenda you have given us. So the resolution, we will have it up on the screen, is titled Urgent Advocacy Regarding Shifting Requirements under Jordan's Principle. Mover is Chief Ogama Omanika, who was here. Oh, there he is. Seconder is Ogama Angus Toulouse, who I thought I saw. Yes, is back here. Miigwech. So I'll get right into the resolution. Page number 1. And I will have it put up on the screen. We're just doing that. Did we lose it? Okay, it's slow, it's coming, but I will start to read the resolution into the record. So it reads, therefore be it resolved that we, the Chiefs in Assembly, number 1, call on Indigenous Services Canada to issue written confirmation immediately, reaffirming that Jordan's Principle applications will continue to recognize a broad and inclusive range of health and cultural professionals consistent with the CHRT orders and past practice. Number 2, we'll get them to scroll down. Direct the Chiefs of Ontario Secretariat and the Ontario Regional Chief to advocate for Jordan's Principle application processes based on a good faith relationship with our First Nations service providers that are privacy protective, culturally safe, and firmly oppose mandatory disclosure of personal data. Number 3, direct the Chiefs of Ontario Secretariat to create an Indigenous-led working group to A, secure and protect existing models of service delivery that have been developed with Jordan's Principle support to ensure they continue without risk to health, human resources, or necessary administrative supports. B, issue a stay on funding to minimize risks of destabilization of service delivery mechanisms. C, provide regular progress updates and recommendations as a standing agenda item at the Chiefs of Ontario Health Forum, with additional reporting to the annual Chiefs Assembly or earlier as needed to ensure timely action and accountability. D, hold Indigenous Services Canada accountable for equitable implementation. E, advocate for multi-year, stable, and predictable funding. F, prevent arbitrary service cuts. G, collaborate with policy and legal experts. H, report funding gaps and access issues. I, track inconsistent and harmful application practices. J, coordinate joint advocacy across First Nations. K, develop Indigenous-led standards for privacy and cultural safety. And L, support legal challenges when necessary. Number 4, direct the Chiefs of Ontario Secretariat to develop an Indigenous-led coordinating body to serve high needs and complex needs children by A, integrating health, education, and social services within existing First Nations-led programs, B, ensuring sustainable and long-term funding, C, guaranteeing seamless access to services and culturally grounded care, D, identifying system gaps and unmet needs, E, implementing Indigenous-defined success measures to guide policy and funding, F, monitoring and responding to complex Jordan's Principle cases in real time, and G, upholding OCAP principles. Number 5, direct the Chiefs of Ontario Secretariat to initiate regional dialogue led by First Nations to examine and reform individual and group Jordan's Principle application processes in line with the principle of substantive equity, the CHRT orders, and the privacy and confidentiality rights of First Nations children. Number 6, direct the Chiefs of Ontario Secretariat and the Ontario Regional Chief to require that Indigenous Services Canada formally consult and collaborate with the Indigenous-led Jordan's Principle Working Group before introducing or implementing any changes to the application process, eligible criteria, and/or eligible services, products, and supports. So the mover and seconder are here. They're at microphone number 4. Mover, you wish to speak to the resolution?
Ani miigwech, again, skon nagagdishagas, my gandodem, gima wikom kong and see the territory. Yeah, just regarding this particular resolution dealing with Jordan's Principle, similar to what our Nan brothers and sisters spoke about there with the Choose Life. So this program that we've been working with and understanding the impacts Jordan's Principle is having within this particular program, we're servicing over 700 children within 4 First Nation communities. And it's supporting our children education system who are with some high needs assessments within our First Nation schooling systems, and understanding the impacts this funding is and these the orders that they've been putting in place, restricting some of the funding allocations towards our communities and the needs of their children. One of the things what happened was been working very hard on this with ISC. We had a meeting back in March with them. They were telling us not to spend an allocation of money that we had in a surplus, in which I kind of gave some direction to the programs of service to go ahead and spend that money, because ISC doesn't see what we need that funding for. And I said, we will deal with it at the political level when the time comes. So we went ahead and used that money. So again, speaking on this and the importance that we hear within our First Nation communities here and the children we are currently servicing, they don't see what we're going through. They don't see the impacts it's causing for our children who require this immediate service. So when we had and used that surplus dollars to do that, and they were kind of saying, if you use that money, you're not going to be eligible for funding in the future. And I was pretty upset at that, but we went ahead and used it. But now we're coming to a point where we hear from our Nan brothers and sisters, Judy Desmond spoke about, we are in a position where we may have to lay off workers, over 30 staff also, and which, we spoke with a number of First Nation communities right now who are part of this, and we had to bridge fund this. So the people who are getting impacted this are our kids, and we don't want the government to ensure that, we want to ensure our children are getting that proper service delivery who need that specialized service and care. We have one of our technicians here, our physiotherapist, who does a lot of the work with our children. And, it's like they don't really care what our kids are going through in our communities. And our roles as leadership positions and ensuring the safety quality of care are followed through. We have to hold ISC and the government accountable to ensure that we have that proper delivery of support for our First Nation communities. So I just wanted to state that, and I want to ensure that I'm speaking on behalf of our communities back home, our children, and other First Nations here that are encountering the same similar situations where the government is trying to state the impacts that they could justify and say how much monies they could give us and inadequate funding that they continue to do for our communities. So I just wanted to share some of that, miigwech.
Miigwech, seconder, Hogama Angus Toulouse.
Miigwech, Igdandek and Indigo, Chichak, Ndodem. Miigwech gain the Namavanich, gay, Mabigima, gay, Manaslik Nakita. Good afternoon. I just want to acknowledge the good work that Chief Amanika and the Asgawitada, Vinojink, Win, Yishkiwetsuat, the coordination they do provide, and certainly the services that ends up servicing many of our much needed special needs children in our community, and support this resolution. I understand there may be a friendly amendment that we're agreeing to as well.
Miigwech, thank you. So we'll open it up now. Just a reminder, it's 2:47. We're trying to get through as many Jordan's Principle resolutions as we can until 3 o'clock. So the more clear, concise your comments, the faster we'll get to the vote. Microphone 3.
Chief Linda McVicker and MK Wishing. I asked the mover and seconder, and I think they agree. I would like to add a friendly amendment to number 3. To read at the preamble, direct the Chiefs of Ontario Secretariat to create an Indigenous-led working group with full regional representation. Yeah, that's it.
So we'll just have it highlighted in yellow. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And mover seconder, you said you're okay with that? Okay, thank you. Microphone 3.
Bonjour. Bruce Hudson. Let's come to Zinkas, Martin Falls, Donji, Hokamakan. Hello, just wanted to more like make a comment, not really make any friendly amendments, but one of our members has said recently, First Nations, we're the Grant Nation, and I kind of agree with him that there's unpredictability in our funding, and the government on the other side unilaterally cuts our funding, just the drop of the hat, much to the expense and detriment of our First Nations, and that's happening to us right now. If there's going to be a group, there has to be a group advocating. All First Nations, Northern First Nations, where we're at, because the bare minimum of standards is not there. The onus is on First Nations to have that capacity to move services at their levels. So I want to make sure that this group that's being created captures that First Nations, no matter how large or how small, they all have to be helped in getting the services that they need, their children need. That no child is all children matter. Miigwech.
Miigwech, Hogama. So strong recommendations if the resolution moves forward. I don't see anybody else approaching the mic. Question's been called. Thank you. All in favor of the resolution as amended? Oh, sorry. I apologize. I didn't finish the vote. I apologize. I couldn't see to my left. Microphone 2.
You're forgiven this time. Rosemary McKay, proxy for Bearskin Lake First Nation. I just wanted to make sure I speak on behalf of my Chief Marshall Beardy. This is a topic that he's very concerned about, and as we know, our employees are being released I'll just say released because of lack of funds or no funds. But I don't know if this is more of a question like myself too. I get bombarded with so much information on a daily basis. Now, my question is, where does off reserve come from in this? I kind of read these resolutions, but I'm not sure if it's clear what it says about off reserve members. Because, for example, Bearskin Lake First Nations is about 50% of the community, out of the community. I mean, majority of us do not have no choice to be on the community. So I just have that concern. Miigwech.
We got a question about off reserve. Chief Carr, is that a response or different? Okay. Mover and seconder, are you able to speak to that? Question is regarding off reserve. Mover, seconder. Or is there anybody else? Support? Any technical staff that can respond to that question? Reference off reserve. Which proxy Rosemary, we're just getting, I think Finn.
Hello, Proxy McKay. So the off reserve piece of the Jordan's principle that comes through with the Jordan's principle eligibility process. So there is a certain eligibility process that comes through with the Jordan's principle. But for the overall OFA and CFS and on and off reserve kind of issue, it's a bit of a broader issue in the sense that it comes from essentially the Indian Act and then also with the tribunal decision to only specifically reform the CFS portion for on-reserve citizens. It's an unsatisfactory answer, but that's unfortunately the legal mechanisms that we have to work with. It's also a major piece of the Indian Act and that operationalization piece. But for the Jordan's principle specifically, it has more of an open kind of eligibility piece where those definitions are a bit more defined in that specific kind of policy for the on and off reserve component. But yeah, that's mostly it. So thank you.
So Proxy McKay, so that's the response. I know it's not necessarily the best response, but that's the response. So with that, I know the mover and seconder are discussing, but I know the question has been answered. So I'm going to go to microphone 3, Chief Carr.
Yes, just wanted to add a quick friendly amendment, and that's changing number 3 from Indigenous led to First Nations led. Just that word change.
Miigwech. So number 3 in the therefore be it resolved. Instead of Indigenous led, it would be First Nations led. Mover I know the mover's having a discussion. Are you okay with that? The new change? Where did our seconder go? Oh, there he is. Yeah. You're okay with it? Okay. All right. I'm going to look around this time. Nobody at the microphone. The amended resolution. All in favor, raise your hand. Thank you. Any opposed? Any opposed? None online? Nothing online? Any abstentions? 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 None. Resolution is carried by consensus. Thank you. So it's we got 5 minutes. Do you think you can get through the next resolution in 5 minutes? Sure. Go for it. Okay, I hear go for it. I'm going to go for it. So the next resolution dealing with Jordan's principle is 2511A. It's titled First Nation Challenges with Jordan's Principle Program Service. So 2511A. We'll have it up on the screen. The mover is Chief Tainer Simpson, who I know was here. Oh, there he is. And we don't have a seconder. identified. So we do have a seconder. Thanks. You'll second, Chief Sarrazin? Okay. So Chief Sarrazin will second. Resolution is up on the screen. We're just filling in the name of the seconder. It reads, therefore be it resolved that we, the Chiefs in Assembly, one, call upon Indigenous Services Canada, ISC, to immediately engage in direct consultation with First Nations regarding all changes to Jordan's Principle, processes, eligible criteria, and funding policies. Number two, demand that ISC recognize and accept support letters and professional assessments prepared by qualified First Nations service providers as valid and authoritative documentation. Three, urge ISC to immediately clear the backlog of Jordan's Principle applications and respond in accordance with publicly stated timelines. Number four, call for the establishment of fair, transparent, and timely reimbursement processes that do not place undue financial burden on First Nations. Five, insist that Jordan's Principle funding be reflective of actual service needs, including full coverage of salaries for qualified support staff, specialized therapy, and wraparound supports. Number six, call for a comprehensive review of decision-making and accountability structures within ISC, with increased oversight and leadership by First Nation governments and governing bodies. Number seven, affirm that First Nations children deserve immediate, culturally relevant, and barrier-free access to essential services in the spirit of Jordan River Anderson's legacy and the ongoing path to truth and reconciliation. Resolution is before you. Mover, if you wish to speak to the resolution, and I think he's approaching microphone 3.
Chief Tanner Simpson, Alderville First Nation. We are definitely in support of this resolution that our team created. It just it takes care of a lot of the issues that we've been dealing with in our community. I'm not going to speak to it too much more than that. It was just read before you, so I'm asking for your support on this resolution. Miigwech.
Miigwech, thank you. Seconder, not required, but do you wish to speak? No, you're good. Any comments? Comments, discussion? Question's been called, but I do hear, I do see a chief approaching microphone number 3. Oguma Ajimneskam.
Oh, bonjour. I just wanted to question, the basis of this Jordan's Principle is CHRT, Community Human Rights Matter, and we must always remember that. And what is the update on that in terms of the legal issue, in terms of the enforcement of that human rights issue? Thank you.
Miigwech, Chief Ajimneskam. I'm going to turn it over to OKT.
So I heard you to ask, Chief, what the update was on Jordan's Principle as part of the CHRT case. You're right that there's an order from the tribunal that's outstanding that Canada must implement Jordan's Principle. That order was made in 2016. And since then, there's been quite a few motions before the tribunal about how Jordan's Principle should be implemented. And currently, long-term reform of Jordan's Principle is sort of on hold temporarily, both while national reform of the FNCFS program occurs, but also while we settle some issues about the backlog and implementation right now, which came out of a motion brought by the Caring Society last year. So it's still on the radar, but the long-term reform piece has been delayed by a few things. Miigwech.
Miigwech, Maggie, for that response. So resolutions before you, final call. Any questions, comments, discussion? Questions been called. Thank you. Resolution before you. All in favor, raise your hand. Thank you. Any opposed? Any opposed? Any opposed? I see none. Abstentions? 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 I see none. So resolution is carried by consensus. So thank you. What time is it now? 3:01. I'm gonna turn it over to my colleague, youth co-chair. Oh, 2:59. Mine says 3:01. So I'll say I did a good job. We did it within 3 o'clock, I'll say up here. So I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Hannah Sewell, for the next topic. But just before I do that, a couple of announcements. There was a leather vest found on the back that has the Attawapiskat First Nation written on the back. So I bet I know who that might be. Oh, it's Ramon. Okay, did you get it already? Your vest is at the COO on-site office by the registration area. Another quick one, chiefs and proxies. There's gifts for you. There is a wall hanging you can pick up for your First Nation. It's at the COO information desk, chiefs and proxies. Also, there is the COO 50th anniversary jacket. You can pick it up at the information desk as well. And then there is a coffee table book for your First Nation as well. You can pick that up at the COO registration table. So chiefs, don't forget to do that before you leave this afternoon. Yeah, Migach.
Miigwech, Adam. Our next item up on the agenda is the Chiefs of Ontario audit update. I'm going to invite We're going to invite Speaker Gary Dokeese to the front to introduce the next agenda item and the Finance Chair of the Chiefs of Ontario Board of Directors. And we are going to go through our audit update presentation. Try and stay with us. Some coffee outside if needed. Gary, nice to meet you, Gary.
Miigwech. Yes, welcome. I'd just like to, on behalf of the Board of Directors for the Chiefs of Ontario, like to invite our audit this year. Just for your information, the Board of Directors did provide a report in your annual reports. I encourage you to read some of the activities of the Board of Directors during the past year. I'd like to introduce the board as well while I have the opportunity. I see over here Jeff Stonefish from AIAI. And I believe Brendan Houston from Anishinaabe Nation. I saw him not too long ago, but he's around here. Actually, he's the new CEO at the Anishinaabe Nation as of yesterday. Yeah.
The Assembly. Can we ask the Assembly to shh, so Gary can do his presentation? Miigwech.
They have it up. Okay. Okay, Miigwech here. And then also during the year, we had Alan Dokeese, who was the representative from Anishinaabe Nation. I guess I was before that as well. And then from Anishinaabe Aski Nation, we had Sabrina Marion, who was filling in as acting CAO up until November, and then myself since then. At this point, the audit has been handed out to you, so it's in your package over there. We're going to invite Richard Beattie, who is auditor from MNP, to go through that audit with you. Richard?
Thank you, Gary. Let's get a little thinner in here. Sorry. Be one of the last agenda items between here and I know a little bit of a gala happening tonight. So that's that's tremendous for the organization. It'll be great to celebrate and recognize some of that tonight. So everyone, I hope, has a good time tonight. So recognizing that I am one of the last agenda items between here and there, I will jump right into the audit. Hopefully we kept enough people in here. Auditing's near and dear to my heart, but it might not be as near and dear to everyone else's hearts. So, but I'll jump right into it here. So like Gary said, I think everyone got passed out copies. One of the first pages within the audit is titled Management's Responsibility. So really quick, just to summarize what that says is that these are the Chiefs of Ontario's financial statements. So management is responsible for preparing and presenting the financial statements, making sure that they're properly following proper accounting standards, and also making sure that there's proper internal controls in place to make sure that transactions are properly authorized, the assets of the organization are safeguarded, and maintaining proper financial records. And then the board of directors is there to provide oversight over management and making sure that internal controls are being followed, and also, of course, to appoint an auditor and to approve the financial statements, and making sure that the auditor gets full and free access to the information so that we can provide our audit opinion. The next page, which is our audit opinion on your financial statements. It's a clean audit opinion, which is good. There's been clean audit opinions for multiple years now. It's good for the organization. It lets users of the financial statements know that the financial information contained within can be relied upon. So I'll just read our opinion real quick. In our opinion, the company financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the association as at March 31, 2025, and the results of its operations and cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with Canadian accounting standards for not-for-profit organizations. Getting into the statement of financial position, which has a page number 1 at the bottom. This is looking at, as of March 31st, 2025, all of the assets and liabilities of the organization. So everything that the organization owns or has owing to them, and then the liabilities in terms of what is owing. So in terms of the assets, there's a total of 36.1 million in total assets. And that was made up of about 2.6 million of cash in the bank. There's also $28 million in term deposits, GICs. There was grants receivable from various funding providers, both federal and provincial, of just over $4 million. HST recoveries of 962,000, and then some prepaid expenses of 516,000, as well as capital assets being mainly some equipment and leaseholds and things like that. So that's what comprises the total 36.1 million total assets. On the liabilities side, total of 31.68 million in total liabilities, of which 2.5 million is related to accounts payable, 701,000 related to grants payable back. And then also there's the larger balance there of deferred revenue of 28.46 million. So that increased significantly from the previous year with funding that has come in that is deferred to be spent in future periods. So total assets of 36.1 million less those liabilities of 31.68 million leaves 4.5 million in total net assets. And that's broken down between unrestricted, internally restricted, and then how much is invested in capital assets. Going on to the statement of operations, page number 2 at the bottom, looking at the revenues of the organization. So in the middle column there was a total of 20.1 million in total revenue. You'll see that there is a large increase in the amount of funding from ISC, mainly related to that increase mainly related to the housing. So there's close to $11 million there, and the bulk of that money was actually deferred. And so that's where you also see a significant increase in the amount of deferred revenue. So those are the kind of bigger changes in terms of the revenue for the organization, leaving a total revenue, like I said, of 20.1 million. On the next page, page number 3 at the bottom, taking a look at the total expenses of the organization. There was 19.5 million in total expenses, seeing increases in kind of the 2 or bigger line items being the salaries and benefits and travel, meals, accommodations, and meeting expenses. Those are the bigger expenses and saw increases in those areas. So total expenses totaling 19.5 million, like I said. That compared to the total revenue of 20.1 1 million, left excess of revenue over expenses of 623,000. Compared to in the previous year, there was excess of revenue over expenses of 275,000. Yeah, that's it for the highlights for kind of looking at the balance sheet and income statement for the organization. I'm not going to go through any of the notes to the financial statements, but they just provide more detail on some of the account balances as well as significant accounting policies. So if you can't sleep tonight after the gala and when you get back to your room, then those are always a good read to help you get to sleep so you can be here early in the morning for tomorrow. So I think at this point in time, I'll just open it up to see if there's any questions that anyone might have.
Any questions? Is there any questions? I see Chief Don Miracle, Mike 4.
Thank you, Richard. The deferred revenue, do we have like a 5-year agreement or a 10-year agreement so that none of the deferred revenue gets recovered?
So the answer to that is there's multiple different agreements. So you'd have to go kind of agreement by agreement, and they all have different terms. So there's not just one answer to that. You'd have to kind of go by each agreement.
Okay. So
but I believe the biggest one being the ISC, I believe that's a 5-year.
So none of this deferred revenue is recoverable?
At this time, no.
Okay. And was there a management letter?
Pardon, sorry?
Was there a management letter?
Yes, there was a management letter, and the main item on the management letter was related to deferred revenue. So there is, as we just discussed, a large amount of deferred revenue. And so, our management letter point is to make sure that, those funding agreements are being looked at and have a plan for when those agreements are coming to an end, to make sure that those monies are spent in accordance with agreements so that they don't get clawed back. And management response to that was, each one of the directors in each area, comes back with their budget, their plan for spending each one of those areas. But that is basically the one management letter point, because it is a large balance, and that would be a significant risk to the organization if those monies, weren't spent. It could be clawed back. So, but like I said, management response was that they do have plans in place and they meet on a regular basis on those plans.
And was there any reason why the work didn't go ahead and it resulted in deferred revenue?
So, sorry, I didn't hear that either.
Was there any reason why the work didn't go ahead as planned and it ended up in deferred revenue? Did it come in late in the year, or is it the work just didn't happen when it was supposed to?
You want to answer that one?
They say that's what agents very years because they don't think your agreements. Exactly, and as well, but the funds are not received at year end and kept them. So therefore we have to receive them later.
Yeah, so Chief Miracle, basically those funds, we do have multi-year agreements to spend them, so they don't have to be spent this year. But the point is, it is a large amount of money. And what we did ask as the board on Monday when we went through the audit is to provide us a report for each year what money is expiring. So we're going to get a report for the 2025-26 year. I think one of the agreements go as far as 2028, 2029. So we have until that time to spend it.
Any further questions from the floor?
And so I see there's term deposits, so they're invested. Is that correct? So what kind of interest are we earning on these term deposits?
So I just got to find which page it's on.
It's on the statement of financial
Yeah,
position.
so note number 4 on page 8, the term deposits, they were maturing. There's multiple term deposits GICs, but they're all maturing between April 2025 and June of 25, with rates ranging between 3.04% to 3.21%.
Okay, thank you.
Miigwech Ogima, is there anybody else that has any questions from the floor for the financial audit? Awesome. I am looking for a motion to accept this presentation. I'm looking for a mover. Mike 2.
Marcel Donio, proxy for Chief Gladue of Bingwe Yashing. I would like to move that the audit be accepted as presented.
Miigwech, I'm looking for a seconder.
Chief John Miracle, I will second.
Miigwech. All in favor? Awesome. Any opposed? Seeing none. Any abstentions? Seeing none, the motion is carried. And that is it for the COO audit update. We are coming to the end of the day, and I'm very happy to bring forward a fellow colleague and co-council member, Pierre Debosseguet, and our knowledge keeper, Dave Root, to deliver us some nice elder and youth reflections for the end of the day to wrap up our day. And I really appreciate the time that they give for the youth and the knowledge keeper to come up and give the reflections. It gives us a great chance to experience speaking in front of people. It gives us a great chance to formulate our words and really get a good consensus of what has happened throughout the day. We hope everyone is going to enjoy the gala tonight. It does start at 5 p.m. at Trent University. And just a reminder as well, the doors will be locked after we finish up today, and that we also have vendors still outside. I'm going to turn it over to Pierre and Dave. Miigwech.
I didn't know that. All right. Ani Kinoya, Niganzit Nim Kibenes Dijnakas, Edicto Dem Chigin Donjaba. I can wait. I'll wait. Shimi Gwetch for your kind and full undivided attention. So over the course of this day today, I've heard a lot. I've listened a lot. And I'll be honest, there was a few times where there were some things I didn't understand, a lot of big words. And that is something very common when it comes to us young people, and even some of our older leadership. But some of the important messages that I got from today was unity, standing together. And that's such an amazing thing when we all come together. And I know we've heard this multiple times today, but I want to reiterate it one more time. When all of us join together, all of us, all of these nations, everyone that sits around these tables, every one of those nations that are listed on that banner back there, when we all put our differences aside and fight one common cause and try to accomplish one goal. As a young person, when I see all of our leadership doing that, it really warms my spirit. And at sunrise this morning, as we were all sharing, I told everybody there, I had mixed emotions being on the hill because of that. Why is it when the 11th hour comes, as they say, that's when we all decide to stand as one? How much better do you think all of our nations would be better off if we stood like that all the time? All the time.
365, 24/7. We wouldn't have to scramble when bills come down the line, when they're trying to force it through. And also today I heard a lot about the protection of our nebe, our bish, our water. You know, as a young man growing up with our ceremonies and our culture, I was always told that from when I was like this big, if you can believe it, when I was down here. That water is sacred. We all know that. And the protection of it. I know there's many people that I've met going to different protests and rallies all throughout my life across Turtle Island. I've seen young men, young women, elders, adults getting pepper sprayed, getting tear gassed, getting maced, defending our water. And we all really have to applaud the grassroots people, all of those water defenders out there. I know we all know one. Because if it wasn't for them, I want to put this question to the Gimok that are still here. I can already see Chief Pei was looking at me. I'll be there. I'll be there. But deep down, honestly, could you be there in that front line? Being hit with rubber bullets, being sprayed with frozen water, being tear gassed. Those things aren't for the faint of heart. And when I was at many different rallies throughout my life, that unity, strong. So as we go on our travels, no matter where you go, whether you're an early riser and the sun's not up yet, or if you're a night owl and you're still awake while the moon and stars are out, put your tobacco out, put your medicines out. Another thing I heard today was a lot of our spirits, our great laws. And when I think of that, I think of our Chiganok Nagewin. Being part of the Anishinaabeg Nation, a lot of our Getsits, my teachers. I know many of us know a good friend of mine who's no longer here, Shikeba, who taught us a lot. We always, no matter what, before we started our assemblies, we always started in prayer. Yes, we did at sunrise, but before our day started, we read our Nogorge Wanzaget, our one Anishinaabe family. And as a youth council member, that sat with me today. Because here at this level, we don't do that. Every morning, I've been to these assemblies. Every assembly I was at. Our amazing chairs here. Mr. Fiddler, Vera, and always a youth co-chair. All right, good morning. This is the rules and procedure. This is what we're doing today. Here's the agenda. We talk about unity a lot. I hear it a lot. And that's something I've been a part of the assemblies. There's a lot of talk. A lot of great, amazing ideas come out of all of our leadership. Doesn't matter if our leadership is a young person or one of our Getsits. It is time that we start making decisions, taking action. Doesn't matter what way that is. You gotta start cranking and turning those gears. And I understand at times it's gonna be baby steps. Because when we were all born and when we were all Benojis, We didn't start sprinting around, did we? You don't see baby animals, newly born, start sprinting around. And as a young person, I've had some ideas. I've talked to a few Gimok today. We should start doing that. I send that idea to all of our leadership here, the ones who are in the Zoom lodge. You know, hey, I like that. Hey, Zoom lodge. That we start doing something as an entire group of leadership. Take that little bit of extra time where we can all sit, everybody, and draft something that we can read at the start of our assemblies. Other than rules and procedure, because I bet almost everybody here can almost rhyme that off by heart without looking at it. So my big message as a young person of things that I've heard today is we got to start coming together a lot more instead of at these 11th hours when it's almost always too late. And one more. No, it feels like I'm holding everybody up. But when it comes to our assemblies, when we gather, 3 days, I know we all know that's not a long time. But for you, Gimok, I understand that is a long time away from your communities and your homes. It's a long time, and a lot of things can happen in 3 days. A lot. But also a recommendation that I have for not only the Chiefs of Ontario, but our leadership as well. Why is it just 9 to 5? Why is it when we gather and we have such important conversations, we're only allowed an hour to talk about them? That doesn't sit right with me. When I have questions, or when I know many of our leadership have questions and they get cut off at the mic. Oh, sorry, Gimok, due to time constraint, I can't let you speak. I don't believe that's fair. I believe we need longer time throughout a day to have these conversations. I used to listen to stories from my late grandfather that he told me about my great-great-grandfather. When he used to come to these assemblies, it wasn't 9 to 5. It was sunrise to sometimes when the sun set. And I know that can be a long day. I know that. But as many of you Gimok know and come to understand, being a Gimok is not a 9 to 5 job. When you decide to put your name in for that, no matter how long your term is, that's a 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week job. And I know that's hard. I remember when, I'll tell a small story, just a small one, just small, everybody, I see that. When I was a little bit younger, when my mom, Grand Chief of the Anishinaabe Nation, when she was our community chief, I remember she would always say, "See you later" to me when she would go to a band office meeting, community meeting. I would start 7 o'clock in the evening or 6 p.m. There'd be times she'd be walking in the door 3:30 in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. And in a few instances, she actually slept in her office. Or answering those phone calls when there's crises in your communities. When something bad happens, your phone rings, and I heard that one time. I was being bad and I was staying up late and playing video games. And a phone call came in at 4:45 in the morning. And she answered that phone on the third ring. Could hear her clear her throat. "Hello? Okay, I'll be right there." And off she went. And as a young person, when I see our Gimok do that, I'm proud of all of you. All you Gimok that are here, our leadership that are here. From a young person, I want to say Opchigo Chimigwech for everything that you guys do and continue to do, not only for your communities and your families, but also for the young ones yet to come. For the little ones that are just this big and the ones that are up in the star world. So that's it for me, Chimigwech.
Yeah. Hold on here. Listen. Chimigwech. Kiwi na gabo nene this kas makwagen do them. Skons ginin gandin dunji sagin number 29. Not Manitoba. So I say me gwech to kinaman piga mutabajik nagin nungam gemayak. Skinny zike yajike ma. Migu ma baga badang game aba shamagu. Shimi gwech kanage just get ko. Miigwech to the proxies also. Miigwech kinago gashami young inuit. Miigwech kanage mama gima tick ya jakaman piga no nabi bajik mano. Mige mamika niganing nishai nedebe tamang mandage non nabi wat kanage non. Kinago gin wa gibzin dagum man pi mabagima tick ya jik. Miigwech mandage nishnava mon gimme the gonang ganage in with you. Na abjito nang nage non. Migo game maba dange maba Shiba. Makwen makanage o nishnave go. Na abjitonio nishnave mon chidebwe tamange yo. Miigwech yo. Miigwech kinagogeo kashimin gonang ganage in with. When the ganage chinagata wind among. Miigwech gi kwech magwanan ganage Shock the man, yo, Ejinago, Manda, Wagon. He's got swad Mokio, Chickajap. Notchkanage, Wonginon, Dan, Gugeo, Teo. Bizin the man, gonna kabad the mart, Kewinoa. Migoge, he Satan game over, Maba Shamak. Chinamach tying, Chickajap. But Kebit is Kanage, done bombing, a peachin. Nin sui ganageni the much web in the go UP Chickajap should have bimbishkat ganage o Jesus. Miigwech kanage mandeo kina move do na what game mande non. Miigwech her gima yat game on P. As you gig that ko. You know, kina ganage non as a wam going go gigi no metio. Miigwech kanage maba our bosses. You want to boss the creator around, she said the first thing. Just take direction. So I say we go to that. I just wanted to say thank you to all you chiefs for sitting here. I was just saying in the Anishinaabe one that Gordon had shared with me about understanding of who you are as an Anishinaabe to speak your language. And a lot of us, we have a little, but that's okay also. That little bit is okay. But I've always practiced that. And I thank those Eagle staffs that are standing here. I look at them as our grandfathers, our ancestors. Now they're standing here listening to you, all of us. We even within our own thoughts
and the caretakers of them. Even the pipes we smoke in the morning, the sunrises. I thank those when we start and we ask for that good day. And also using our grandfather teachings as we smoked pipes in the morning, or thinking about those that we're going to have both sides of looking at things of we may not agree on, but also to have our differences. That's what's going to make our change, is those differences that we make when we have that difficult discussion that we're going to make. So I thank those when they come, when they happen. And it's not easy for our ORC for what he does, because he has to hear all your voices as well. Then he has to take it a little step further. So I really commend him for his duty, his role that he has. And each one of you is in your own communities, because there's things going on within your own communities. And a lot of it is the last part that I was hearing about our Binoji taking care of our children. But it's also difficult with how we get funded, or the funding that comes. And we have difficulty with those, again, with the funds. It's always going to be about our funds. And it's always having to have an understanding of the Caucasian when they have arrived here, the settlers. Through some of the teachings that I received is they brought alcohol, and then they brought the Bible. So there was a confusion made along that journey. So we kind of live in that confusion now. And I see it and understand it. But it's like what he had shared with how we're going to stand together. Stand together and moving forward. We know our history, but they don't seem to understand our history at all, what they had done, what they've done to us. And to them, it's just like saying, oh, I'm sorry. Sorry for that. Sorry for what I done. They don't understand how much the impact of mental health that done to us. And it's still there live today. Working with that also. So it's we do our best. Our chiefs do their best as they move forward within their communities. Things they wanted in their communities for change, but not everybody's in agreement again within the community. So we're always fighting with that side. So that's where I see that confusion of what has happened. Khan Genin Ginawam Dan, Abjit Tonan Nishnabem. When I use my language, I see it differently, or I understand it differently. And it's nothing, there's some good things that they brought, but there's the other part that I always struggle with is Anish Wanja, the Bandaman Kinagagego. Why is it that you want to own everything? And we have to fight for that when we're already here. So it's I think our teachings, like one of the grandmothers that got that star blanket, talk about that star nation. And that's that Star Nation we live in also. We come from that Star Nation. And how we're going to be together as one. We were like that at one time. But now it's a colonized way of thinking at times, but also we needed that, their way of thinking and fighting those words back to them as well, to understand that. Put things back on them and owning what they done. And that change that we need to have. And so I say, miigwech. I hear there's a good gala going on tonight. I hope the sea is there also and enjoying. I like to thank all the COO organizers that put everything together as well. All the microphones and everything else and technology, the vendors that are outside. So I say miigwech to that. And I think about the sunrise also when we smoke our pipes and our pipes are there. They're visiting, just like we're here ourselves, visiting, working together. We asked those pipes to have a good gathering. The decisions that we're going to make, that everything runs smoothly as possible. Those pipes are visiting as much as these Eagle staffs, these grandfathers are visiting with one another as well. So I say miigwech to that, to my understanding of ceremony. It was really good to hear about ceremony, how another nation is using that to get their answers. Our chief is going to go to a Sundance. I thank him for doing that. I made a pipe for him to go. And he said, "I'll think about certain things." And I said, "Yeah, it's there to help you. Maybe the direction we're going back home ourselves in a lot of different, with our neighboring community as well, our sister community." Ceremony is very important to us. I just want to point that out, how ceremony has helped me, but it can also help us as well. So I say miigwech to that. I say miigwech to, because I was there myself. I thank command that was here. Now they're from Manitoba also. One of the places I started when I was looking for my road also. So I say miigwech to that. And to miigwech to all the youth as well. We still have another day to go through, so I say miigwech to that. And enjoy your night. Enjoy the gala or whatever you might be doing. I don't know if there's a bingo hall around here. Maybe find a casino. I don't know. But I'm going to go to the gala and hope to see some of you there. So I say miigwech, 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 miigwech. I try to keep it short. How did you get? Miigwech, boss.